All right, welcome. We're about to dive into some really deep, transformative philosophy from the book The Lantern of the Wise, Sailing Beyond the Horizon of Knowing by Dr. Hassamalden Al-Zawawi. Specifically, we're going to unpack a powerful idea from Contemplation 4, which is called VEILS as Acts of Mercy. Now, to really get this, you have to know that it sits inside what the author calls the first station. And trust me, this is a foundational concept that could totally reframe how you look at every single obstacle in your life. Okay, so let's start with a feeling we all know, right? You've got a goal, you have a plan, a prayer, something you deeply, deeply want. You're putting in all the work, you're doing everything right, and then nothing. You just hit a wall. A complete, total, frustrating, dead silence. And what's our go-to reaction when that happens? It's usually panic, isn't it? Our minds just race. We start blaming ourselves. We think, oh man, what did I do wrong? Or even worse, I've just been forgotten. I've been abandoned. That silence, it feels like a personal rejection. But this is where the source material drops a bombshell of a question. What if that wall, that slammed door, that deafening silence, what if it's not a punishment at all? What if that barrier is actually a form of protection? And this slide lays it out so perfectly. It just completely flips our normal script. Where our brains immediately scream rejection, the source says, no, it's protection. What feels like a punishment is actually about preservation. And that feeling of abandonment, it's really a process of refinement. This is the core paradox of Contemplation 4, and it's a real game changer. Now, to really grasp this, we've got to understand the book's framework. This whole idea is part of what's called the first station. The best way to think of it is like a foundational vantage point. It's a new pair of glasses for looking at reality itself. It's all about the soul's first, primordial awakening to its connection with the divine. And right inside that first station is the first reflection, which is all about belief. But here, belief isn't just an idea you agree with in your head. The book describes it as an immutable thread, a deep, unbreakable, existential connection to the Creator that was established way back in the primal dawn. It's already there. And this idea gets backed up by this incredibly powerful verse. It just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Our data set is so limited. We can only see this one moment, this one closed door. But a higher wisdom sees the entire map. The very thing we hate right now might be the thing that ends up saving us. So here's this brilliant analogy. The source says that if the full, blinding light of the divine showed up all at once, creation itself couldn't handle it. It would be consumed. So the veils, our struggles, our roadblocks, our unanswered prayers, they're like our planet's atmosphere. The atmosphere doesn't block the sun, it filters it, making it possible for us to live and see. These veils protect our vision. They don't blind it. Okay, so that's the big idea. But what does this actually look like in real life? The book gives us a couple of powerful stories from history that show exactly how these veils work as protection in practice. So let's start with the story of Yusuf, or Joseph. I mean, think about it. The guy's betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused of a crime, and then thrown into a dungeon for years. If you're him, sitting in that dark cell, that veil of imprisonment looks 100% like a punishment. It looks like the absolute end of the line. But the source asks us to just pause and reframe that whole story with this one simple question. Was it punishment, or was it the ultimate preparation? And check out how this unfolds. The prison wasn't a dead end. It was an incubator. It put him in the exact right place at the exact right time to interpret the king's dream. And that single act led to him saving an entire civilization from famine. The veil wasn't a punishment. It was the necessary launchpad for his destiny. The second example is, wow, it's even more intense. It's about Musa, or Moses. To save her baby from being killed, his mother is divinely inspired to do the most unthinkable thing a parent could do: put him in a basket and cast him into the river. That veil of separation feels like the ultimate, most painful abandonment imaginable. And yet, that river, the very thing that separated him from his mother, was the transport system. It was the divinely orchestrated vehicle that floated him directly into the enemy's palace, where he'd be protected by the very person who wanted him dead. The veil of separation was literally the vehicle of his salvation. So, what happens when you actually start to see the world like this? What's the payoff? Well, this shift in perspective is what unlocks what the book calls the treasure of human consciousness. The first thing that changes is that your belief stops feeling like this fragile thing you have to constantly prop up with your intellect, like a scaffold you're afraid is going to collapse. Instead, it becomes a sacred sanctuary, a place of profound security and rest that you can actually live inside of. And that security comes from this huge aha moment. So much of our anxiety and our constant striving comes from this feeling that we're on the outside, looking in, desperately trying to get God's attention. The realization is you were never outside in the first place. Just let that one sink in for a second. You are the one perpetually gazed upon. You're already in the room. You're already seen. All that energy we spend fighting and clawing for an attention that is already fully on us, it changes everything when you realize that. And that realization leads to this huge shift in how we experience time and struggle. We move from the frantic panic of human timing to the deep peace of divine timing. Instead of thrashing around in the water trying not to drown, you realize the current is actually holding you up. You can just float.
And look, if you take away just one sentence from all of this, let it be this one. To be veiled is not to be unloved. It is to be refined. That's a massive perspective shift. The darkness isn't an empty void. It's a workshop. It's where you're being prepared for the light.
So I want to leave you with this question to take with you. Think about that blockage in your life right now, that locked door, that frustrating silence. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking a different question. What is this protecting me for? What am I being prepared for in this silence? And trusting that there is an answer. Well, that's the entire journey.